when we were talking before we got on the podcast here, you mentioned that there had been some media reaching out to you about being the first firm to actually do a Zoom trial. So tell us, like, who's reached out to you? What is the media like? What kind of questions they have? What are they interested to hear as it relates to trying lawsuits via video conference?
So I know NBC Nightly News was watching the Zoom trial. As I mentioned, I talked to Bloomberg this morning. Texas Lawyer did a piece on it. So did Law 360. And, the angle seems to be, what went right, what went wrong. Right?
Yeah.
That is, kind of some of the things we're talking about. What things can you expect if you do this? The other is, did you like it? Did you think Zoom was a good way to try a case?
Tell us about that.
I will tell you that it is a good alternative to being, let me rephrase that. I think it's a fine alternative to trying a case in person. As someone like you, Brian, that enjoys being in the courtroom and likes to think of himself as being good at it, and there's a lot to the art of putting on a case in front of a jury and presenting in front of a live audience and or a judge. And examinations and advocacy in person require, a lot of skill, on your feet skill and thinking. Some degree of that is taken away, right? When you're doing it remotely. I mean, it rewards lawyers that are not as skilled, right? You can have your script in front of you. You can, you can really prepare things and it come across very nicely. But a tremendous courtroom presence. Pick your legendary trial lawyer is not going to be as exciting or dynamic or interesting by Zoom, right? Which I like less. I mean, I really think that's part of our trade, our craft. And that gets diminished some, right?
You talking about this brings to mind, and I know you've had this. I've had this multiple times where you're either examining a witness or you're making an argument or something, and you can kind of tell that the jurors are with you, or a couple jurors are reacting a certain way to a certain witness, or they mouth something, or you can just there's a feel to it, a judgment to it, which I mean. I don't know what your experience with Judge Miller being the fact finder, but even in a bench trial, when you're arguing to the judges, you want to know how they're reacting. You want to have a feel for the reaction, and I don't see how that can possibly be replaced by video trials. So
it can't. I mean, I always call it the energy in the room, right? A really good trial lawyer can gauge the energy, both of the jury and the judge and everyone, right? And that can take so many different forms. They're irritated, they're hungry, they're whatever, right? That element is really removed almost entirely. I mean, you still gauge facial reactions of some, but and so I don't like that. Right? I mean, I really think part of our skill is knowing, right? Because if you are there in person and you can gauge the reactions and the energy in a room, when to push a little more, when you might get that extra additional answer, or you might know when to back off. And it's hard to make that determination when you're on a Zoom call.
The other thing is, and I don't know what you think about this, John, but like I can see, so being in person and being able to think quickly on your feet, or being able to ask the right question at the right time, or a witness gives an answer and really listening to his answer and then going in a different direction based on the answer. Those are the skills of a good trial lawyer, but I think they're also maybe the most effective way of getting at the truth, because if you can script everything out, everything's real clean and antiseptic and it's all pre-planned and there's no surprises, then you're not really doing everything you can to get to the truth. Where when things happen quickly, before you have time to think too much, or a witness says something that's not in a script, oftentimes, I would argue, you're getting to the truth much more effectively. And so,
I
I
totally
I do worry a little bit about there being the trials being far too scripted.